And we are live. Nice. So welcome. Today we have another coffee brewing stream. We're back with these Colombian beans, and we'll hopefully get a really good cup today because we now have an amazing grind consistency going on, and we have a close to really balanced and delicious extraction. So we're just going to do a small tweak here and there and see if we can really dial in this bag of beans over here. You might have seen me earlier because I went live by mistake doing some tweaks on my stream. So you might have seen me go live maybe an hour ago, just with the webcam randomly, which is hilarious. But that happens. And yeah, excited to brew some coffee. Let me turn that down. It's kind of loud. And something else that is kind of exciting is that I'm going to try and do some more live streaming, but on my desktop setup, either today or tomorrow. And what I'll be doing is that I'll be just live streaming me editing video. That's what I do for a couple of hours pretty much every single day. And I think it would be nice to just get into that routine to live stream that process, to kind of share the back end of what I'm doing with this YouTube channel, how I create assets, how I edit video, how I sync up audio to video, or create effects and stuff. And I think that would be a pretty enjoyable process to watch, and it would make it even more enjoyable for me to have some people just interacting with me at the same time instead of being that hermit just chugging away at all the content and creating things. So I'm going to try being a bit more open with the way that I create content and the way that I produce things and so on. Yeah, I actually didn't realize that I was live for the longest time. It was 5 minutes or so on that live video. I was just I'm just gonna tinker around with this software called OBS and see what happens. And yeah, Leandra, I was and then I logged into YouTube and I was I'm live. Oh, I am live. It was kind of funny, but it happens. Nothing R-rated was shown, so it's all good. And also, something that I did to improve this stream quality is actually to take away all the sun, because it was a bit too intense on the webcam that I have over here. It was kind of blowing out the image, and I wasn't getting a really good, crisp image with that amount of sun in the shot. So now I'm trying to kind of patch it up a bit more so that you guys get a better and cleaner and more crisp webcam shot, which is good, which I think is important. Okay, let's begin. Let's brew some coffee. Moving you over. Like so. And down. Like so. Cool. Let's first of all show the variables that we're using. So this one over here is actually changing. This one is changing from 40 grind size to 38. That's what we said yesterday. Like so. So our brewing recipe today will be a 1:15 brewing ratio. We'll be using 20 grams of coffee at a grind size of 38. The water temperature will be boiling, and our water dose is 300 grams. Like so. Oh, yeah, it looks so much more crisper on the screen now with the lesser sun, which is amazing. Nice. And like so. Let's measure out our coffee. And if you ever have any questions or thoughts or good experiences in your life or anything at all, feel free to post those in the chat. Always down to interact and have a good start to my day by just chatting to people. Like so. There we got our coffee beans. Smells delish. I'm always like, whenever I look at these beans, I really do think of Nutella. That's like the color that it has, and it's so uniform. I should make like a side-by-side comparison image just to really get that color going. Okay, let's grind it. Change our grinder setting to 38, like so. And here we got the ground beans. Looking good. Let's use the brewer to see what grind size we have right now. We'll spread some out on our hand, like so. And then use this to just kind of take a note of where the grinds are. So it's still pretty on the coarser side for sure. But compared to yesterday's grinds, there aren't as big of a boulder like cluster around. So the biggest pieces aren't as big as yesterday. So just the slight change in grind size going from 40 to 38 has kind of made it so that the biggest pieces aren't as big from my observation. So it's still pretty high up though. Like overall, the coarseness is still like 1,400 to like 1,800 microns-ish. But overall, the consistency looks great, and I'm really happy with the amount of, or actually the lack of fines that we're seeing on these grinds. Like so. Let's get our boiling water. So we got our cup, our Hario V60, our coffee filter, like so. I'll bring it a bit closer. Like so. We'll preheat. And I'm loving how the light over here is just shining with this cup, creating this awesome reflection going on. What if I... Nope. Okay. Then we tare, we toss in our grinds. Like so. Bring it over to the timer. I'm not sure if you guys can see the timer. It's probably a bit too bright. Might just turn it around for the next stream. And we begin. Start the timer, pour 60 grams. Like so. Let it fully drain out. And then we pour another 60 grams. Those bubbles always smell so great whenever it degasses. Like so. Another 60 grams. And we go again. We can see, but we trust you. Nice. I'd rather have you see it. Like I can maybe like hold it as like a shadow blocker so it's a bit more crisp. Or maybe this plant can like block it. I can go like this. Yeah. And then we pour another segment, another 60 grams. All the way up to 240. Well, sometimes even I can get it wrong, you know, so I need chat to catch me sometimes. And then we pour the last segment all the way up to 300 grams. Like so. One thing that's interesting about this technique is that you don't do any like agitation of the coffee bed or like stirring. And due to the pulse pouring, you still get a really nice and level and even bed. Like, look at this thing. This is from no stirring, no like swirling, no nothing. This is like an extremely leveled and even bed. It's like really fascinating how just the act of pulse pouring and doing it very controlled will make it so that the bed naturally levels out and becomes flat. And that's it. Looking good, looking stellar. Bring that over there. Give this a stir and let it cool down. Like so. Move this back and twist like so. Nice. Another hopefully really successful coffee. We'll see how it goes. One thing that I'm kind of interested in trying out somehow is to like get people brewing alongside with me, you know, having people do the same bean and we're all kind of like tasting the same coffee at the same time. I think that would be really awesome, and having like a virtual cupping session of sorts. So I don't know how I'm gonna do it just yet, but the logistics of doing it, I just kind of need to like figure out and get. And then I think it would be really rad to just have like a communal brewing session with the same beans to hopefully taste the same things and to share those flavors and notes and that experience. I think that would be really rad. Down the line, we'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah, like my first sips are never good because I always drink it a bit too fast. So I'm gonna really give it some time now and let it cool down just a bit more. What I could do is like decant it into different vessels just to like cool it down a bit. You know how like some tea like pourers poured from really high up to like aerate it, but also cool it down at the same time. Could do that, but too much hassle. Okay, let's give this a sip. Mm-hmm. So right now it's just slightly on the over extracted side. So we've gone really close to the balanced extraction range with these 3 brews that we've done. And we've been slightly under extracted, we've been pretty balanced, and then we've been slightly over extracted. And in my opinion, the first one, which was slightly under extracted, that we did as Brew 1, actually what I did over the weekend, was in my opinion the best tasting cup. Now, this one over here is a bit on the over extracted side. So, what I'm tasting is that after taking a sip, I'm just a bit lacking on a nice, like, juicy mouthfeel. It's also feeling kind of dry. And I get that kind of a mouthfeel expression. And it's really that those qualities of over extractedness is now shining in the cup a bit more than I had wanted to shine. But overall, like, it's not really super over extracted, but it's just slightly over extracted. Like, it's still a pretty good cup of coffee. And even though it's slightly over extracted, I think that we're in a range where we can really play around with other variables now, meaning we have just been playing around with grind size for the last 3 brews. I actually think now that we should be playing around with water temperature a bit. So instead of using boiling water to compensate for tomorrow's brew, I think a good option would be to decrease this to something like 95 degrees Celsius and then brewing with that to counteract that slight over extracted quality. So let's just write that down as a change. So we're going from 100 degrees Celsius to 95 degrees Celsius. I really need to fill these in. And today's cup, it wasn't as good as these two. So I would say it's a bit lower over here. Still pretty decent. And this one was slightly over extracted over here. So we had kind of over extracted or under extracted, mostly balanced, and then over extracted over here. So within this range of grind size, we've realized that we can get a balanced extraction. Yeah. So, in my opinion, these beans are still not as good as the Kenyans that I had that came with the same coffee subscription. But this is really just differences in coffee origins and varietals and the way that they've been roasted and the qualities that they showcase, because it's still a pretty good cup of coffee, but it might not be my cup of coffee. So it's all about those flavors that you really enjoy in your cup of coffee that make it either really good or really bad for you as a personal preference. So I think we've gotten to a good point with this cup where now we're just like kind of finessing the recipe, But overall, the cups that I got from the Kenyan bean were just overall more pleasing for me and what I enjoyed. I really enjoyed that juiciness that I got from it, that berry-like sweetness, and just the acidity that came with that. While in this one over here, it's just a bit more of a standard neutral cup of coffee. I was hoping that it would give a bit more since it was naturally processed, meaning that it might have a bit more funk in it. But overall, it just hasn't been showing those qualities that I was looking for. I probably put my expectations a bit too high on that read of the natural process, and my expectations were just kind of pretty out there for it. But that's what I expect from solid roasters, you know. One thing that I think is really fascinating, though, is that you can get so many different flavors of coffee with different origins and just exploring places that the bean has been grown. And it's really something that you only learn after buying your own beans and getting down and dirty and like really understanding those qualities and statistics that are on your coffee bag. So a lot of the times when you just go to a cafe and you get a cup of coffee, they'll have the coffee specs listed over there, but you don't really take note of it until you start brewing coffee at home and really get down and dirty with one bean for a extended amount of time. So I think that is one of the charms of brewing coffee at home, really getting to understand a coffee's origin and the beans that you have at hand and how to really maximize it and get the most out of it. And also the personal preference part, finding beans that you enjoy and like. So yet again, I'm gonna maybe live stream later today from my desktop, and I'll be doing something called multi-streaming. So I'll be taking one feed and I'll be streaming it to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, hopefully. I'm gonna try that today and see how it works. And I'll be just streaming my process of creating YouTube videos for this channel. I think that would be a fun thing to stream and just have and share, because it's such a journey to build a YouTube channel from the bottom up, and just these early days where it just feels a bit lonely just chugging along at the computer. I think it would be great to just have some peeps to keep me motivated as I chug along and like cut up video clips and so on. So yeah, hopefully I can get that figured out today. I'm not fully sure how I'm going to do it, but I'll make it work. So Leandro says, unfortunately here in Brazil, it is really hard to get coffee beans from other countries. That's really unfortunate. But being in Brazil, I guess you have access to the freshest and best Brazilian beans, which is amazing. So I guess you're like a person who really knows Brazilian beans in and out, and really understand the qualities of even like the regions within Brazil. So understanding the different farms in there. So you're like a Brazilian specialist of coffee beans, which is kind of rad too. So don't take it as a downside, take it as a positive, and really go deep into Brazilian beans and learn all of those nuances. Down the road, who knows, you might get access to more beans outside of your country and region. I actually have some Brazilian beans that I want to roast soon, actually. Let's see if I can get them. I was looking at my list, and it's actually Papua New Guinea and Tanzania, not Brazilian, that I'm looking at. But I should be exploring more Brazilian beans for sure. I think that Brazil has a lot of solid coffee and a lot of potential for good stuff. Yeah, 100%. Lots of different single or origins and varieties to try. Even like different roasteries within like the area, just understanding their take on how they want to roast the beans. So is there a roastery that likes roasting a bit on the lighter side, or is there one that plays around more with blends, or one that really is good with dark roasts, or one that kind of maybe imports some beans from here and there? You never know. There's a lot of roasteries that are trying a lot of different things out there, and maybe one is in your area that you can visit and get some unique beans from. Okay, I think that was a solid stream. I'm yet again pretty excited to try to live stream my whole editing process, so maybe you'll see me later today. If not, I'll really try to do it for later tomorrow. And I haven't figured out a like full-on schedule just yet, but we'll see what happens. I'll make something work. But overall, have a good day, morning, evening, afternoon, night. Hopefully you are hydrated and everything is solid and good. And yeah, I'll see you in the next stream. Take care. See ya.